morning. My name is Henry Chidgey, and welcome to my Wednesday morning memo. I am passionate and committed to impacting the quality and numbers of leaders on our planet. These weekly free leadership educational videos and now free blogs are part of my expression of that commitment. I am so happy you have chosen to spend a little time with me now. I'm here today for one reason and one reason only, and it's to help you build your company and your team to produce outstanding results. I'm going to share a couple of lessons of my past and a story about my past in which these applied, and this would be just one of many of the stories that go with this particular segment of my life. But let's start with two things I think are critical in terms of doing any change or any improvement in an organization. And those two things are, you need to have access to accurate metrics. It's like you wouldn't want to be losing weight and have a scale that every time you stepped on it, it moved 10 pounds one way or 10 pounds the other way. You don't know, you don't get feedback, accurate feedback about changes you're making, things you're doing that are actually working and things that are not working. And the second thing is that you need access and you need to embrace what's really going on in your organization, the facts of what's going on in your organization, not the stories about it, not what people think is happening. You need to somehow get access to information and facts that you believe are reliable and truthful. So, let me tell you where my story of all this, where this is coming from, is there was a time in my life where I was brought out to a company, large company, and I was put in charge of a portion of the company that was responsible to maintain and repair 2,500 railway diesel electric locomotives, and about 80,000 freight cars. At the time I came to the company, the fleet of locomotives was in terrible shape. And the reason that was a real problem is because there was customers' freight and trains held all over this large system with not enough locomotives to move the trains. And the locomotives they did have were not, I'll use the word trustworthy enough, they weren't reliable enough is actually the word we use in the industry, reliable enough that you could count on them. So you'd always have to have an extra locomotive on a train because it was too likely that one of them might fail and then the train would come to a stop and everything would get blocked. Two key metrics that needed to happen on that railroad was we needed to improve availability, and which is the number of locomotives, like out of that 2,500 locomotives, how many of them are actually serviceable and ready to go to work, are working on a train right now. And then the other piece is the reliability, like how frequently do they fail. So on the reliability side, I'll just say this. We came up with some creative measurements that we held ourselves accountable to move that needle. And it started with things as simple as we had a list of locomotives every morning of locomotives that had failed within 24 hours of being released from the shop. And then we do a root cause analysis. We determine what needs to change in order to have that not happen. And part of it was there was a whole lot of pressure internally on the leadership in those shops to release locomotives. Because if you release a locomotive, at least for a little while, it counts towards availability. And so this was to counter that pressure so that we fixed them. When they came into the shop, we did what was necessary, even if it took longer than what people would like, but we did what was necessary so when we released it, it didn't come back right away. And you can see how that would be a really vicious cycle that this company in this maintenance department had gotten themselves into. And then the other thing that was really important in this story is that the metrics that were being used to measure availability, how many locomotives are actually available to pull trains, were not accurate. They were misstatements. They were out of integrity, is a nice way for me to say that. They weren't the truth. And so when I get there at this company, the first thing I always check coming into a new job is what are the metrics we're being measured by in terms of performance? What are the results that are desired? And I always check, can I trust the metrics? Well, if I can't trust the metrics, one of the very first steps is to get the metrics where I can trust them, because without having a trusting ruler, if you will, to measure performance against, I don't know if the changes are making a difference, positive or negative. I have a desire which way they're going, but I want to know what the truth is. Is it working or not? So, get the metrics squared away, but what is the appearance of getting metrics like that squared away? When you take a number that's just a number, and it says you got 82% availability, and then you get the numbers where they're the truth, and now it says it's 76% availability, it looks like, to people that are not sensitive to that, or don't want to be sensitive to that, that you and your team are really failing. You're making things a lot worse than what they were before. And so part of it is you got to have the courage to go through that storm. And you got to have the courage in yourself and what you're doing, that you don't blame somebody before for the bad numbers. You just say, in order to do what we're going to do, the numbers have to accurately reflect availability. And we've done that. And what you're seeing that. Now, we still haven't solved all the problems, but we're on the step. We have something to measure our performance against right now. I might add that when all this is going on, I'm given 90 days from the time those numbers started looking worse, 90 days to dramatically turn it around, or I am fired. It was a very clear, unequivocal statement. You either do it or you're out. We'll get the next person. So I said, okay, I can do this. But nobody gets in my way. I had a boss at the time, another boss, level of boss, and he was always trying to tell me what to do. And after that, I told him, you don't have any say over what I do now. I know how to do this, and we're going to do it my way. And my job at this point is save your job and to produce a result. So I hope you've enjoyed the story. What I'd like to leave you with, though, is how important it is in your organization today. Go look at your stuff. Do you have accurate metrics? Do they actually measure the results you're producing? Or are they hinked some way where they look more favorable than the reality? If they are, buckle up and figure out how to get you some metrics that you can really depend on, so when you make changes, when you do things, you can see whether things are getting better or worse. And the other piece about getting to the facts, I became an undercover boss during this process, as I told you. And without that, there's no way we would have had the transformation occur in that department with almost 4,000 people that we did. And it was relatively simple. I wouldn't say it was easy, but the cure was simple. Then we went through a process of delivering the cure. So thanks so much for being here. Take us out in the world and have fun with it. I'd love to get feedback on this. This is kind of a new adventure for me. I'm telling stories now. If you'd like to work with me, you can always set up a discovery call, or if you just want to send me an email with a question or something like that, please do that. Take care now. Bye-bye.